Germany, in particular, has seen an increase in terror attacks this year, from an axe attack on a train over the summer to just last week when a 12-year-old tried to blow up a different Christmas market. But this scene from yesterday, when a truck deliberately plowed through a crowded Christmas market, hits close to home. Holiday markets in cities like New York and Chicago have already taken measures to heighten security. For more on how the U.S. will step up security, I'm joined by CBS News security analyst Ron Hosko in Washington. Ron, thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
So I want to ask you about these multiple terror attacks in Germany. Pressure is on Chancellor Angela Merkel to combat the rise of attacks. What's the biggest obstacle for Europe right now?
Well, I think they have several. One, you have the European Union with very open borders. You have the flood of refugees coming in out of these war-torn areas of not just the Middle East, but out of Africa as well. And the lack of good fidelity on who it is that's coming in, the lack of biometrics on everybody who may be coming in, so law enforcement might be able to go back and match something up later. You have really a huge number, comparative to the United States, a huge number of citizens who are regarded as foreign fighters who have traveled to the Middle East to engage in jihad and then return to their native country. Thousands compared to, several dozen or maybe 100 or so here in America. And then the difficulty of tracking, of identifying those who present real and present threats and tracking them across these open borders from country to country or within a country just based on finite resources of law enforcement and the intelligence community. So Europe they are hard up against it right now.
Ron, nobody has claimed responsibility for this attack in Berlin yet. When we're looking at these lone wolf attacks, the weapon is often an item accessible to anyone, like a truck or a car. How difficult is this to monitor from a security standpoint?
It's incredibly difficult. We have to face the reality today in our world, our shrinking world, that the battlefield has moved. The battlefield has moved from a dusty place in the Middle East to Orlando, to San Bernardino, to Nice, France, to Paris, to Amsterdam or Brussels. And so securing everything is an impossibility. We are talking about an enemy, if in fact the Berlin attack turns out to be ISIS-inspired or al-Qaeda inspired. We're talking about an enemy that is inspiring by broadcast, by megaphone, through the internet, through social media, trying to get anyone to listen and anyone to act with any tool at their disposal. And so that tool could be a car, a knife, a baseball bat. It is virtually anything. And securing our world in that sort of threat environment is really, it's impossible.
Are there any threats to the United States right now? Here we are just days from Christmas. What are cities doing this holiday season to keep everyone safe?
Yeah, I know that my former colleagues at the FBI and folks within DHS and certainly the major city police departments will be ramping up their intelligence coverage. We did this, it ebbed and flowed, of course, based on the intelligence that you have flowing in. We would, push additional resources to ramp up our intelligence coverage against perceived threats. And that is, again, hard to do based on available resources. Cities will be trying to secure those high threat, more likely targets with additional uniformed police officers and undercover police officers. So there is a surge capability in all these departments. The police will be working around the clock like they do round the year in America to try to protect those things that are near and dear to us. Now, particularly with this ISIS threat, I think you'll see more coverage and more attention paid to houses of worship, religious ceremonies, religious events, because we know from particularly this threat group, ISIS, that we're all targets. Citizens, women, children, everybody is a viable target in their mind.
Ron, I want to ask you, in terms of the investigation, we know that the truck driver may still be on the run. It seems as if the person who was arrested has denied any involvement, and we're still getting more information about that. But what does that do for the investigation? How much does that put them back?
Yeah, it's very concerning. It is always nice if you have a subject in custody at the scene or immediately thereafter, live or dead. Of course, what law enforcement and the intelligence community want to be able to do is interrogate, is interview a subject and find out their connections and understand the network. And here we are 24 hours later, they are starting to chase that network and come to the realization that they may have the wrong guy in custody is very, very concerning, because they've expended a lot of resources now. And if it turns out those resources have been wasted on one person and the real offender is still out there, the risk of that network doing something again, or that subject doing something again, momentous, is very concerning to the Germans and to anybody in Europe.
And it is breaking. We are hearing from German prosecutors that say the man that was arrested after the Berlin truck attack was released because of insufficient evidence. So now I imagine there's just a whole new set of security concerns as they ramp up, the search for the person responsible.
Yeah, absolutely. The forensics, the reviewing cameras, all of the usual shoe leather functions of police detective work are going to have to kick into high gear right now to see if they can have a face, put it out on the media, have somebody come forward and identify who this person was, because that risk of a follow-on attack is right in front of us.
All right. Ron Hosko, CBS News security analyst, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Sure.